this is your host, Julia Napini. I am a clinical and forensic social worker who owns a counseling practice and a consulting business. In this show, we discuss the challenges of being successful in business while maintaining your integrity and staying true to yourself. Join me while I interview other professionals and share insights from life and experience. Let's talk about RingRx, our latest sponsor. RingRx is a high-quality, HIPAA-compliant telephone, text, and fax communications platform. They provide seamless, cost-effective communications for behavioral therapists, medical practices, hospitals, and other healthcare providers. RingRx is designed for modern healthcare environments. They offer customizable features like a phone app, automated patient outreach, voicemail, after-hours call routing, and top-quality desk phones. Try RingRx for free today at ringrx.com. And if you sign up using the code CLIMB, you'll get 15% off your monthly bill forever. Conditions apply.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Compassionate Climb podcast. Our guest today is someone who I am thrilled to learn more about. Long time coming to have her on the show. Fascinated by what she does and can't wait to learn more and share her with you all. So Carla Titus, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited we reconnected, and here we are recording now to benefit your audience with some great wisdom around money management.
Absolutely. So we were, I believe, connected on LinkedIn, and then I got to meet you in person. And yeah, so it was wonderful to see you again recently at Meet You in Kentucky in passing. It wasn't enough. So I'm gonna get my fill today.
Perfect. Let's do it. We'll make it happen.
Awesome. So fill everyone in on your career climb, how it is that you developed your business and got into the financial realm, whatever you feel is helpful for them to know foundationally.
Yeah, so I was in corporate finance for 11 years at a big Fortune 500 company. And I, was craving a little bit more flexibility and freedom of control of my time and also like impact, because it's one thing to impact a big corporation and put another zero in their pocket. And it's very different when you do it for a small business. So I realized quickly small business owners don't have access to expertise around the financial side of their business because they're normally thinking, bookkeeping, accounting, like file the taxes, do the compliance, and it kind of ends at that. And I didn't realize they had no idea what a CFO was, what we did, that there was like a career path for this, that companies that are big have this at their disposal. And I realized like that gap needed to be closed for small businesses, especially in the mental health industry where I hear a lot of therapists or clinicians are just like, I'm not good with numbers, or I don't really like the number side. This is not why I got into business. But here they are, they're owners, they've grown their practice and they need support and they don't know who to look to. And so I brought in my corporate finance experience and decided to start consulting, doing the financial work that a lot of businesses can really benefit from and accelerating the growth, helping them manage profitability. But they don't even know it exists. So we're like trying to get the word out and make sure businesses have the support they need when they need it.
Absolutely. Well, happy to help with that mission. So at what point did you start Wealth and Worth Within? And give us a snapshot of what the business looks like now in terms of size and reach and service delivery.
Yeah, so we started about 7-8 years ago. I started volunteering for some organizations just to see, like, can this even help them? And then I realized it did. And then we started a business at that point. And so it was just me and an assistant to start. And it quickly grew to like a whole team. So now we have 3 bookkeepers on the team and I'm hiring another CFO. So it'll be 3 of us on the CFO side of the business. And we service clients all over the US in different stages of growth. Some mental health practices with multiple locations that are growing. They want to open even more locations. We have practices that are like in the early stages. They're like, I just need help with my bookkeeping. And like, can you just take care of that for us? And we have everything in between. And what I love about the work we do is just we're able to be there with our clients behind the scenes, doing all the work and, dealing with all the problems that come with, growing a business. Scaling is expensive. So we're helping them navigate that with data. And what I always say is Business owners are great. They have great intuition and that served them well to a point, but then it gets to a point in their business where finances become more complex and they're not sure what to do with that. So that's where we come in to meet them where they're at and give them some insights and knowledge and educate them on how we think about financial management and bring them the tools that they're missing too, the systems that are not there to help them get that visibility and start to use the data to make better decisions in their business so they're not just guessing.
So let's break it down a little bit more specifically. So I'm thinking most in our audience are probably familiar with the roles and responsibilities of an accountant, a bookkeeper, financial planning. So where does a CFO come into play? What sets them apart? And at what point in an entrepreneur's business building journey could someone in that role be helpful?
Yeah, so bookkeeping is always the foundation of everything we do. So a CFO relies heavily in data integrity that a bookkeeper is responsible for. And whether that's being done or not, that's a whole different, podcast episode. But we rely on the books being done every month in order to be able to do the work that we do. On the accounting side, you need someone to help you with the tax side. We're not going to file your taxes for you. So that's the accountant's job, making sure that everything's in order, compliant, and, they're handling like the present and the past. Same with your bookkeeping team. What the CFO does is really the forward looking piece of this, where we're like, okay, here's what we've done, here's what we've accomplished, but we know there's more we could do, and we want to plan for different results. We want to see some growth. We want to see more profit. We want to see more owners' compensation. And we map that out in a plan. So that's the role of the CFO is the forward looking. What's the possibilities, opportunities? What are we not seeing? How can we fix some of the things that maybe we don't like about our business right now, financially speaking, and put, strategies in place to help correct that. So it's very proactive, forward looking. And that's a very different role and skill set that comes with, the work that we do, which is really rooted in financial analysis and projections. When a business is going to need some of this is, again, when the owner's ability to control the numbers has surpassed their own knowledge or expertise, which, owners are really good at like, okay, I know what's going on in my business. I know there might be some problems and they can't put their finger on it. They're like, I know something is off, but I don't know where or how to describe it, but I know something is off. And that's where we come in to help them put that finger on the pulse and say, what's this right here? Is this what you're feeling? And they're like, oh my God, yes, it's exactly right. Let's go ahead and fix it. And then we create a plan to fix it. So I don't really necessarily talk about like a revenue look because everybody's like, well, what revenue level? How many people? Like we always say like 2-3 years in business, you kind of got your footing under you, you want to grow the business. You're in that stage of growth. Maybe you have 10 employees and it's starting to feel like it's exceeding your ability to manage that kind of complexity. And, it tends to be 7 figures, but not exclusively because I have clients that come to us at 6 figures that get the support they need and then they're skyrocketing to the next level. And then we also have like 8-figure clients that are still struggling with, some of the financial problems. So there's, CFO support for all levels in different ways that can also meet the needs of clients and help them get that clarity no matter what.
So I can think of so many examples for those that are listening that might be considering expanding and adding team members where somebody in a CFO capacity could be so helpful. Before you make this decision to hire, making sure that you're going to be profitable and you've accounted for all the right things, compensation models and benefits. I can also see if you're thinking about adding a second location, buying a building. What are some other things that I'm missing that would be really helpful for those listening that are expanding, but also some ways that a CFO could be helpful if you only ever plan to be a solo business owner?
Yeah, great question. So for other things that we can help with is often we get asked for compensation strategy. Like sometimes you're going from 1099 to W-2 and you're like, can I even afford it? If I can afford it, what should I pay people? And we're running margin calculations to understand like, okay, what's affordable? Can we sustain this? What have you already done? Like, what do you already decide on your compensation structure? Whether it was intentional or not is what you have. And we need to either fix it or check the box that it was okay, what you did works, and we don't need to change it. Or if there's issues we see, we might say, okay, we will grandfather the team in that already got that, but going forward, we're going to do something very different. And understanding what are some of those levers we can pull. We're also looking at pricing, like if you're either private pay or insurance based, we have more flexibility depending which one you are. And then the service offers you have, are you doing assessments? Are you doing, all day intensives? Are you doing summer camps? Like what are some other offers besides one-on-one therapy that you are providing in your practice that behave differently than one-on-one therapy? How are you billing codes? Are you doing add-on codes? Like, there's so many possibilities, and it all comes down to understanding average reimbursement rates and making sure that those are healthy by the type of, people that you're hiring, mapping out the hiring plan. Cause you're like, I want to grow. How do you grow? We need to map out how many locations, how full are they going to be, how fast, and really understanding like the cost structure on all those. For your, people that are solo, even them being solo, they need to know what is profitable and how many sessions am I making money or breaking even in my costs. Like, how can I optimize for profit in my business by taking certain kind of work or not taking certain kind of work? And so even if you're solo, there's a place where financial strategy comes in. Obviously, it's not going to be monthly ongoing because you probably don't need that. And we would tell you that, we're like, we could probably do it in one session and take care of a lot of these questions. That doesn't mean you don't have questions that you're trying to get, answers to, and you want the data to help you answer some of those. And that's where we can come in to partner, do a one-time strategy, a one-time project, again, no ongoing cost, and answer some of those for you to make sure you feel confident and can move forward, on that action plan that we outlined.
Yeah. So do you strictly prioritize working with mental health professionals, or do you
Great
broaden
question.
the scope at all?
So that is one of our specialties. I had a healthcare background before my tech career in finance. And I was just casually mentioning to my husband one day, I should be the CFO of a hospital or healthcare organization. He's like, well, don't you have a consulting business? Can you just go do that? And I was like, oh my God, yes. Mm-hmm. And that's when we started to bring in some of that experience from my healthcare background to marry with my financial background. So we quickly realized that mental health practices were an industry that one could use and benefit from our services, and that there was a big need there for sure of like the high level, high touch, high quality financial support that they weren't getting. Mm-hmm. And on the other side, we also do work with other industries, which I think, one, it keeps it fresh for us because then, there's things that other industries do that you would never think to do in mental health. And we're able to even explore that as an option, and vice versa, right? Things that there's a certain way it works in mental health, and then you bring it to a different industry and they're like, I never thought of that. So I think the beauty is that we get to service different industries and also bring and share things that could work cross industry that no one else is looking at or thinking about because they're so like in their industry that they're not going outside to seek ideas and perspective.
Are there some examples that you could think of where, in both ways, something that has expanded maybe what someone in a mental health profession has considered on the financial side, and then maybe something that's helpful in the reverse?
Yeah, I mean, how we do compensation is really big from other industries where they manage like the hours by, like tightly, because they have to manage their labor costs really tight. And this is something that I don't see often in the mental health environment happening for many reasons, right? Again, nothing bad. It's just like how the industry is perceived. Like, I think there's a lot of, you guys hear, the stories, right? Like people want to work 5 hours a week and make a lot of money. And like, they don't want goals because then that feels very corporate-y, or they really don't want to be managed by the numbers because they just want to have freedom and flexibility, which we absolutely want them to have for sure as a benefit. But the practice has to make money. Otherwise, they won't have a job tomorrow. Nobody gets paid and everybody's going to end up getting laid off. So the thing is that we have to kind of balance that need of like flexibility, putting life first, enjoying life for our teams as much as we do profitability in the business to ensure the longevity of the business. Mm-hmm. And that is not something I see the mental health industry doing very well because we're very accommodating, right? We're very generous, very accommodating, which again, is not bad. We just sometimes have to dial it a little bit down in order to make sure, hey, after all, we are in business and the purpose of being in business is to make profit. And we put a lens of people and profit to everything we do to make sure we also bring in the human aspect, of like, how do we drive goals? How do we make it a win-win situation to make sure that our people feel cared for and listened and heard? And at the same time, we're holding accountability at the right level, which is something other industries do so much more clear, because they're like, if we don't, we're out of business.
Yes. So that touches upon one significant thing that mental health professionals would benefit from adjusting in our mindset and how we view things to help us be more successful. What else can you think of on the financial side of things that you see being a benefit to those with our training that are a struggle, but if we tap into it sooner, it will help us promote longevity and sustainability?
Yeah. So another thing we do cross industry that works really well is like managing by percentages. And that's because we're looking at profit as a percentage of revenue. We're looking at cost as a percent of revenue, labor as a percent of revenue. And why we do that is because as you scale and grow, your costs will go up, but your revenue should also be going up. And so it's a function of that revenue growing alongside the cost that makes it so that you can manage by percentages. And I know this is where I lost half the people, right, on the audience today, because they're like, what percentages? I can't even. But it's so like simple of an approach, yet it's such an effective approach to manage by, because now you understand, like, are my percentages getting worse, or my percentages holding steady, or my percentages getting better? Mm-hmm. And it seems so simple, yet it's such a powerful management tool. And then we take action to make changes necessary to drive costs up. And now this is something we do very tightly with like retail businesses or restaurant business, because they can't afford to have a bad season. And so we bring that tool to the mental health, where we have a lot more wiggle room and say, hey, if we move the percentage by a couple of points, all of a sudden your profit looks a lot better. And then we're meeting the goals that we have outlined in the practice without a lot of, trouble. So it doesn't take much, but at times when those percentages are really off, that's when we really have a lot of work to, go through to improve on it. And it takes time and effort and a well laid out strategic plan that not only meets the need of the employees, but also meets the need of the practice to be profitable again.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see across the board with those that are in our field that don't take much of an adjustment to see a big difference?
Yeah, great question. So I don't see a lot of focus on cash bank account balances. And you're like, how come? And it's because we're just not in tune with what's happening in our numbers. And this is one critical number that not just for your industry, but any industry will literally get you out of business. Like, you run out of cash, you're out of business. And we have worked with clients to get them out of that situation and turn it around, painfully so, but they definitely learned their lesson, and they know that can't happen again, because when we run out of cash, and it's not like you're not have money coming in. You're just waiting for insurance to pay you. Or we know what happened when the cyber attack took place, and all of a sudden nobody was prepared with a cash runway to weather just a few months of that getting stabilized. And it's very critical for businesses to be paying attention at their cash balances. And it's a big mistake. I see a lot of owners that are just not building their reserves, or not thinking, hey, what if something was to happen tomorrow? Like, would I be able to last a week or 2 months to make sure that I have time to correct the issue and come up with solutions? And now we have time to respond to the issue, versus like, hair's on fire, we have no time, we run out of money. And guess what? The bank won't give you money when you need money.
So it sounds like there's two things you would recommend there. Foundationally, us having that knowledge of trends and cash flow and percentages to try to anticipate what may be coming. But then secondarily, having those reserves, and whether it's an emergency fund or some money set aside, so that if there is something unexpected that comes up, it doesn't put you out of business.
You got it. Yeah. And it seems so simple, yet I see many practices that are just not doing this work, because it's not fun, right? Who wants to just like save money and let it sit there? I get it, but that is what's going to allow you to sleep at night, knowing your employees and you can get paid no matter what happens. And then you have time to, fix the issue as you go through.
What are some other suggestions that you have for everybody that's listening, that are some things that they can either start doing or pat themselves on the back for doing already, that will help them in the long term that they could ultimately utilize you for, but are also some things that everybody is capable of managing?
Yeah, so right now, the number one thing you should be doing is looking at your financial statements every month. And I mean, specifically the profit and loss statement. The other two might feel a little bit more daunting. So we'll just start with the P&L
What are the
and
other two?
the cash flow statement and the balance sheet. Yeah, but those are gonna, cover your assets and equities and liabilities. The other one's gonna tell you where your cash went. And this is, tying to the conversation about like you should have money in the bank, so you don't have to be looking at that all the time.
Right.
But if you were in a cash crunch, then you will be definitely every week looking at that. So going back to the profit and loss statement, this is really gonna tell you like, is your business profitable every month? Like, did you make money last month? Did you spend too much money and the revenue came right in and went right back out the door? Like, you need to know what's happening in your business. And even if it's not happy numbers, just knowing, okay, I was at a loss last month. What happened? Why? Like, get curious about what's going on in your business from a numbers perspective, because there's so much you could probably fix that is a simple fix. Like, oh, maybe we overspent on training this month and next month we don't have plans for that. So we're okay. That was a one-time thing. It's fine. It's an investment in the practice, right? Or maybe it's like you did a big marketing campaign, so you spend extra money because you know you want to grow and generate more revenue. Again, positive things, right? It's very intentional though, because you have planned for it. You knew it was coming, you did it, and you knew, oh, we're going to take a bit of a hit, but we're prepared because we have the cash reserve and we're going to bounce right back because we know that's going to help us improve the outcomes going forward. Versus you overspend and you had no clue, and now you're double the expenses that you thought, and you're like at a loss and you have no idea how to get out of it because you committed going forward to those same level of expenses every month, and you feel like you can fix the issue because you made a commitment. By the way, you can make different commitments going forward. There's ways,
Right.
but this is important. Like, just being in tune and understanding, okay, what happened last month? Now you want to get more sophisticated, you can start projecting out, right? Like, what do I want to happen next month? What do I want this to look like? And that's where we come in to help you draft some of that.
So you've already offered one suggestion for this, but I'm thinking about the current climate right now in the mental health profession. We have summer right around the corner. That is usually a slower time for a lot of us with regard to referrals, session numbers, consistency, cash flow. But then I'm also seeing a lot of the changes in the mental health landscape across the board, with it being a lot harder to hire clinicians because a lot of people are more inclined to start their own practice. It can also be a lot harder in general just to continue to generate those referrals. So cash reserve and being planful. Anything else that you would suggest that can help us weather some of these challenging seasons that we may be facing in our practices?
Yeah. And all of that is very real. Like, we're seeing the consolidations across big capital venture, firms buying up mental health practices, making it more quote unquote accessible, though the quality of care, debatable. We don't know. Right. And, patients don't know the difference, by the way. So they're going to go wherever they think they can afford to go to. So
Sure.
you're up against that, right? Then the industry, is hard to hire, right? Talent is just not readily available like it used to be, because now everybody thinks they can be a business owner. But the reality we hit at some point that some people are great business owners and some people are better being employees. And that takes time for that to, sort itself out.
Yeah.
What you can be doing though as an owner is you need to evaluate, where are you allocating your dollars today? And does that need to change going forward? So what I'm, working with my practices on right now is, where are we putting the dollars? Are they working for us? Are we getting the benefit, the ROI for it? And especially around marketing. Like, I know a lot of you are tempted to pull back on marketing. What we're actually doing is we're doubling down on marketing on a lot of the practices to make sure that the faucet is turned on, there's flow coming in. Even if we have to wait to hire or figure out the hiring part of this, we will figure that out. But, we rather have a wait list than not have anyone. And then
Absolutely.
when we have that clinician ready, we can run them out quickly. So I think it's counterintuitive, because you're thinking, I need to save money, I need to preserve, I need to shrink, I need to stop spending. And what we're saying is, well, the practices that are going to be around for the long term are the ones right now putting money in the right places to make sure they're growing, so they're not shrinking and going backwards.
That is so helpful. What are some other things that you think everybody should know, be thinking of, can be doing? And I also would love to know what it looks like to work with you or somebody in your business to actually walk them through the process and what that looks like?
Yeah, something they should be doing again, just looking at the profit and loss statement, even tapping into their existing money team. If they have a bookkeeper, an accountant that can help them, those are
Will
great
you
places to
coordinate with
start.
them?
Yeah, we quarterback those functions. A lot of the work we do beyond supporting the owner, of course, is making sure their accountant is aligned with the goals of the business financially that we've crafted and that are helping us, minimize tax legally and maximize, owners' earnings in the right ways, in the right buckets. And then we're also talking about with their financial advisors to understand what are the wealth building goals and how the profit will help support those. So job for us is to create profits, but the work of the advisor is to then take those profits we're giving them and invest them in the right buckets for the owner. And then on the bookkeeping side, like we're overseeing bookkeeping work to ensure quality of data integrity, like I mentioned at the beginning, and make sure that if there's any changes we want to see, if we want to split the types of revenue that we're bringing in the business to get visibility, that we're providing that guidance to the bookkeeping team on behalf of the owner so that, they're not having to be in the middle of these conversations and we can do just professional to professional, nerd out on all the things, and make sure that they're all aligned, working the same direction, because that's important, right? Otherwise, people are over here doing something because they don't know, not because they're ill intent. They're doing something else, working against the goals accidentally, and we just don't want that. So we want to make sure we're quarterbacking that on behalf of the owner. As far as what it looks like to work with us, we have a onboarding process we put our clients through where we're setting up their CEO financial dashboard where they have really great visibility into what's happening, comparing month to month, year over year, quarterly trends. We're looking at the goals that we've crafted together. We also go through a very robust forecasting process. If you don't already have goals for the year, and even if you do, we still go through it because we find that in those conversations, we can pull a lot of this financial strategy that's missing in the business and say, well, what about this? Have we thought about that? Did we do this? Did we ask for increase from insurance for reimbursements? They're like, oh, it's been 3 years. I'm like, we should be on that right now. And so then, we're able to give them very actionable things. We can even spot things like, hey, is your billing team effective? What's your AR balance? Is it going down over time? Is it growing? Do we have an issue? Is it one insurance? Is it all insurances? Looking at reimbursement rates, talking about compensation structure to make sure they're the right margins. We're looking at KPIs like, how much are we getting paid from insurance as a comparison month over month, over time. When the down seasons come, we're prepared for those because we saved some money aside because we know we're about to go through a down season. Like that's not a surprise to anyone here. And making sure we're prepared, but also what are we doing to offset some of that? Do we have some ideas or things we want to bring to the table? Also depends on the owner's appetite to take on any of this, right? Like at the end of the day, I know you guys do a lot of work. We can come up with all the brilliant ideas, but you're tired and you're like, listen, we're already doing a lot. We're not going to do more. But then we take that and say, okay, well then just expect our normal seasonality of revenue and then we'll pick it back up in the fall and it's okay because we know it's coming and we're cash reserve prepared. But this is how it all connects, right? It's all related. It's all interdependent. And this is the complexity I was talking about on the financial management that comes into the practice as the practice grows, because there's just so much that is happening that if the owner's not spending the time trying to understand how the pieces connect, we do that on their behalf and we help them understand, hey, when you do this, this happens. And over here, we worry about this thing too at the same time, which is what brings the complexity. But then we help them navigate through that, which is, a lot of the relief and financial clarity that they're seeking in their business that maybe they haven't gotten before.
So share with everyone how they can learn more and work with you. And I'd also love to hear about the podcast that you recently started.
Yeah, thank you so much for the reminder on that. So we just launched our new podcast called CEO Financial Clarity Corner. It's meant to be an educational, action-driven type of podcast where if you listen, you should be sitting down taking notes because you're going to go take action in your business from what you learn in that episode. So it's intended to address a lot of like the type of work that we do, the trends that we're seeing, like how we work with clients, what are we helping them with, and the conversations that if you don't have a CFO, you should be having with yourself about the business. And obviously, if you want a CFO, we're happy to help. But we just kind of want to put that content out there and educate everyone on, what they should be doing in their business to improve their financial health. And we find that people, find that podcast and then they reach out for help because they're like, okay, I don't know how to do all of this. Can someone help me? And we would love to be, in your corner supporting you. So you can check out our website at Wealth Wars Within. We also have a newsletter for those of you who love to maybe read and not listen. Though if you're here, you probably like podcasts. So we started with that. And then there's a way to book a call with a CFO if you want to talk to us about how we might support your needs and you're ready to explore what it's like to work with a CFO or hire one. Then we're able to talk to you about what are some of the gaps we can help close and how we can outsource this function to us. But also don't forget, we do bookkeeping services as well. So if you're like tired of your bookkeeper or have outgrown their skill set and you're just looking for more support, we always say we're the second bookkeeper they hire because they're like, okay, I need a professional now. And that's okay. Like nothing wrong with who you had, but sometimes as we grow, we have a need for, additional support in different ways. So we want to make sure we're here for that too.
You shared so much helpful information today. I really appreciate your time and the work that you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. This will help others find us and benefit as well. The Compassionate Climb podcast represents the opinions of Julia Napini and her guests. The information provided is intended for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice. If that is what you are seeking, please consult an attorney.